You got the toys, but you don't got the characters.
Alright, so we give these characters, these guys, some names.
Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors.
Who the hell is Jayce?
Jayce is given the magic Ring of Light by the wizard Gillian.
Oh god, you gotta be kidding me.
You see, there's this little girl, Flora, and she can sense when the monster minds are near because she's actually a plant.
Our product is called Wheeled Warriors. Vehicles. Where are the vehicles in this pitch?
They drive them around on the planets that they visit.
So let me get this straight. The core of our products will become a bunch of minivans on your show.
What's with the show? Why? Wireless.
In 1985, the toy industry was galvanized to take risks. The previous year, 1984, had been arguably the greatest year in the history of action figures. Not only were Star Wars, He-Man, and G.I. Joe still going strong, but 1984 saw the rise of GoBots, Transformers, Voltron, Superpowers, and Secret Wars, not to mention Sectars, Dune, Gremlins, and Remco's badass Secret of the Ninja line. So at the apex of the most incredible era of toy making in history, manufacturers jumped into 1985 with both feet. Kenner gave us the incredible Mask, Galoob gave us the mediocre Defenders of the Earth, and Mattel gave us some really unique toys that were forgotten all too soon. Wheeled Warriors. The story of Mattel's Wheeled Warriors is a cautionary tale of what happens when a product line is fatally disconnected from its promotional strategy. In this case, a weekday afternoon cartoon. The cartoon Deke produced is just as bizarre as it sounds. However, there's a dedicated fan base that holds a big torch for this show, and for good reason. It's superior in many ways to other cartoons of the time. The animation was beautiful, sourced out of Japan, and it seemed Deke was able to secure the best teams for this show. The show had a continuity, much like Voltron, weaving in the problem of the week into a larger quest to find Jayce's father. Most other shows were just a series of unrelated adventures. Best of all, Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors is legendary for having an intro theme unrivaled in the annals of animation history. The theme song is the most gloriously overproduced piece of music no cartoon ever deserved. It could have been a radio single on its own. Written by animation music legend Shuki Levy, who wrote the music for Mask, Pole Position, and He-Man, among many, many others, this song will get in your head like the best power ballads of rock.
Don't stop rolling, the fire is on. Wheel warrior, the battleground's burning, a wheel's moving, wheel warrior. Come take a chance, keep on turning, don't stop rolling.
Once you get past the window dressing, though, the devil is in the details, in a big way. I won't lie. Every time I hear the theme song, I'm tricked over and over again. I think, this is going to be great. Nope. You can make a fantasy world that has its own reality, its own rules, and in establishing those rules for the audience to understand, it enriches the entire experience. Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors fails at this basic principle of fiction. Before the first episode is over, the plot has so many holes in it, you'll have to jettison any hope of ever making sense of everything. That's not to say the weekly adventures aren't interesting. Some are quite compelling. But the key dramatic element, the search for Jayce's father, which tracks through every show, train wrecks in the first episode. The show opens on a planet that looks like it has just been through a hellish war. We see a miniature suit of armor, Un, running on foot from evil-looking vehicles toward a magical dome. In the center of this wall of light, in an oasis of trees and grasslands, Jayce and his friends are preparing to leave, as massive vines are covering the planet like monster kudzu. Jayce says,
Gillian, the vines are climbing climbing higher onto our wall of light.
And he says it in a way that indicates familiarity. He knows what these vines are. Gillian's response,
"It's powered by the sun, and they're blocking it. It can't survive much longer,"
is spoken in an equally familiar tone. Gillian then says they might have to leave before Jayce's father Audric arrives.
"We might have to leave before that, Jayce."
No!
The plant girl, Flora, senses Oon approaching. That on its face is weird because Flora is in tune with plant life, yet Oon is a robot. How she senses him, I have no idea.
I understand plants and animals and even people. Sort of.
Oon jumps through the wall of light and is frantically trying to explain to them why Jayce's father is not with him. Gillian puts a spell on him to reveal to them what happened to Audric, and we go into a flashback with the same camera shot from Army of Darkness. This is key. This scene establishes that up until this point, Jayce and his friends are expecting Audric to arrive without issue. Oon is panicked and desperate. Jayce and Gillian do not know why Audric is missing. Oon tells them Jayce's father was working to end starvation for everyone in the universe by creating a special plant. To do so, he built a special lab in another galaxy. And we see Oon with him in these flashbacks. Okay, so if Audric is in another galaxy, how is Oon able to reach the planet Jayce is on? I didn't see a spaceship, and Oon's on foot. How'd he get there? So Audric discovers the answer to starvation, but right at that moment, the dark star explodes nearby, and the radiation instantly mutates all of the plants into evil brains that can transform into motorized vehicles.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Audric exclaims,
"Oon, we have to flee! The monster mines are ruthless!"
He doesn't say these monster mines, as if he's just named them. He says the monster mines, as if it's an already established thing. How is he so familiar with them? How does he know they're evil? How does he know they're ruthless? Didn't he just create them like seconds ago? Oon and Audric flee the lab, and Audric tells Oon the leader is called Sawboss. How does he know that? Didn't he just flee? Oon says the monster mines covered the planet in their kudzu, and Audric created a good plant, a magic root, that would destroy the evil ones. Audric told Oon to give the root to Jayce because
He's your new master. Serve him faithfully. He'll know what to do.
First of all, Jayce didn't even know his father was in another galaxy until a few minutes ago. He thought Dad was nearby and coming with Oon to take the last flight off the planet. Jayce also didn't know what the evil vines were, because Oon just revealed his father accidentally created them, even though it really sounded like Jayce did know what the vines were in the beginning. But if he had known what the vines were, he would have known what had happened to his father, which he didn't know until Oon showed up. The whole thing just goes round and your head starts to explode. The point is, Jayce is the last person who knows what to do. And even though Oon has been racing to find Jayce and give him this magic root, the vines have already spread into another galaxy, even though we have to assume that this lab accident happened a relatively short time ago. Okay, so now Oon hands the root over to Jayce. Gillian pipes up and says,
"You must find your father. The root he carries must be joined with this one."
Wait. Oon didn't say anything about a second root. Audric didn't say anything about a second root. How does Gillian know about a second root when he didn't even know about the lab accident? Plus, this whole plot point is pure stupid. If Audric needed to join both halves of the route to stop Sawboss, why didn't he just do it right then and there? And if he did have to flee, why couldn't he have fled with Oon so they could have made it to safe ground with both halves of the route in their possession so there wouldn't be any delay? Splitting up the route makes no sense. The longer the route is separated, the more people and planets will be killed by the monster mines. If Jayce is captured and killed by Sawboss, and Sawboss gets his half of the route, then the other half of the route won't work. Or, if Audric is captured and killed by Sawboss, then the same result applies. So there's no tactical advantage to separating the route. Audric is responsible for this galactic menace, didn't try to warn his home galaxy, then instead of pushing the button on the solution, sends one half of this route to his son, and proceeds to play hide and seek with him across the galaxy. Meanwhile, billions of people are in extreme danger, probably trillions, while his son has a root around his neck that's both a bug light for the monster mines and a death sentence. Jayce's father is a royal asshole. Gillian takes Jayce to a replica of Superman's crystal computer from the Fortress of Solitude and gives him the Ring of Light, a magic ring that was once worn by the leader of the Lightning League. He says that long ago, the Lightning League protected the galaxy from evil. Okay, so let's see if we have this right. There's been no explanation about what planet they're on, nor where the rest of the population got off to. They were prepared to leave before Un told them everything that happened. Only then did Gillian go get this ring off the cliff. So are we to assume he would have otherwise left the Ring of Light behind? If this is the Lightning League's homeworld, what happened to them? Where'd they go? Are they dead? The ring is still there. The vehicles are still there. Where are they? Why aren't they fighting the Vines yet? A few minutes later, a Han Solo ripoff character named Herc shows up. He doesn't know Gillian pulled his ship down there so they could get off the planet. Let's just think about this for a minute here, okay? Jayce and his friends are awaiting Audric's arrival. They expect him to meet them there. And they don't have a spaceship to get off the planet. So they're probably expecting Audric to have the spaceship that's going to take them away. So when Un shows up on foot and he doesn't have a spaceship, they got to start pulling a spaceship out of the sky. That means Audric screwed his son royal. And if Un was able to get to Jayce on foot ahead of the monster mines, then it stands to reason, to me, that Audric could have evaded capture long enough to meet up with his son, and they could have all left the world together. Jayce's father is a royal asshole. This guy, Herc, is a mega douche. He wrecks their yard, admits it, refuses to pay for it, then asks them for a part to fix his ship. Gillian conjures one up out of thin air. Herc doesn't offer to pay for that either. They ask him for a lift off the planet. He agrees, but then refuses when Jayce says they don't have any money. This guy wrecked their property, refused to pay, is given a free part to fix his ship, and can't even see his way toward offering them a complimentary lift for their trouble? Gillian says the Wall of Light only lets good beings pass through. So I'm still scratching my head as to how it defined Herc as a good person. Gillian pays him in gold, specifically lead he turned into gold. I'm not really sure where he got a mountain of lead bricks. I assume he conjured them up like the spare part. The stupid thing is, he can't keep them gold for long and they turn back into lead. I know this is some alchemy myth, but seriously, we just saw the guy conjure up a very complex part for an intergalactic spacecraft, but you're telling me he can't abracadabra some gold bricks? That's your main cast. A kid who doesn't serve much purpose, a wizard whose magic is expanded and limited without consistency for the convenience of each episode, a plant girl who can sense plants and sometimes everything else, a space pirate who's a complete toolbox, and finally, an absentee father. Which brings us to the villains, or villain in this case. Sawboss is the leader of the monster mines. He's kind of like the Emperor in Star Wars. He sits on his throne and orchestrates his operations from a distance. Even though in the intro of every episode we see him turn into the Sawboss vehicle, he rarely does so in the show. In fact, the Sawboss vehicle is always leading the charge against the heroes, but it's not ever really Sawboss. On rare occasions, Sawboss speaks through the vehicle like he possesses it for a moment. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. The monster mines are fueled by the power of the black light. So they're plants that were grown in a lab, and they draw their strength from a black light. Are we sure that they didn't mistitle this show? The good guys drive these big SUVs and are out to destroy plants. If Audric hadn't been a botanist, I'd swear there's an anti-ecological message here. At best, it's a warning about genetically modified organisms. Most of the episodes consist of all the heroes taking turns yelling, "Monster mines!" It gets old quick. You start to think it's the only line the writers knew how to put to paper. Take this episode.
Monster mines.
Monster mines? Monster mines.
Monster mines.
Monster mines.
Monster mines!
The real frustration is the severe disconnect between the title and the content. You can tell the writers were shoehorning the vehicles into a dissociated idea. It's like they wanted to make a show called Jayce and the Ring of Light and couldn't get anyone to buy it. So they round-pegged their Jayce concept into the square hole that is Wheeled Warriors. Just look at the logo. It looks like one of those Marvel team-up covers where the two characters' names are in their signature fonts, and this is a special one-time only event. The Wheeled Warriors have their steely letters, and Jayce is written in this kind of design you'd see at Steak and Ale. The common defense by die-hard fans for this series is that J. Michael Straczynski was a writer on the show, and he would go on to create Babylon 5. They see this as enough evidence to prove that Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors must be great. Greatness by association. But that's misleading and exaggerated. For starters, French writers Jean Chalopin and Haskell Barkin wrote a lot of the episodes, and the writer of that fatally nonsensical first episode is a guy named Michael Mahoney. Plus, Straczynski only wrote 13 episodes out of a 65-episode series, and the first episode that sets everything up wasn't one of them. In addition, Straczynski himself said the show wasn't well thought out, and that his intent was to, quote, hijack a dopey concept and make it into something more. Yes, he wrote the last episode, and yes, he wanted Deke to make a movie that concluded everything. But that doesn't mean the show is actually good. It just means that Straczynski held himself to a much higher standard than the rest of the creative team. Because Straczynski wasn't there on the ground floor to help set everything up, this show was doomed out of the gate. It uses a Gilligan's Island structure where every episode is Jayce always thinking he's found his father, and then doesn't find him. What that also means is, if by some chance the show isn't successful, or the toys aren't successful, or both, the show gets canceled before Jayce can find his father at all, which is exactly what happened. Mattel and Deke made sure everyone who invested in this franchise would lose, including the viewers. But how did this happen? Well, they had the cartoon, and they had the toys, which were the vehicles, but the writers did everything but use the vehicles. I mean, between the wizard, and the flying fish, and the plant girl, and the magic root, and the magic ring, and the space pirate, and the monster mines, there really wasn't a lot of room left for the vehicles. And because of that, retailers didn't make room on the store shelves for them either. It all began with Masters of the Universe in 1983, and it just snowballed from there. The cartoon... Yeah.